Alrighty. So, I guess if anyone's out here live seeing this beforehand or watching this, my name is Eric Harris. Good morning, good afternoon to you, depending on where you are. In here, I have right here, can't see him, but he's here, Frank Field. So, uh, Nintex Community Manager, definitely value add here. And one of the people that helped make this thing happen. We're trying something new, something a little different, wanting to bring more of a live atmosphere to the community to help answer questions and just bring more interaction to it. So that's one of the reasons for this, and one of the things that we're looking at doing, and try to make this something that's consistent so that people can get used to it, anticipate it, and also chime in. We'll have some of these coming up in the future. Hopefully, the weekly or biweekly. We're looking at the resourcing and scheduling of that, but the goal behind it is to have topics, things like forums, workflow management, installation, maybe best practices or governance, compliance, things like that around workflows and around Nintex, even mobile, and giving you specific content and information around Nintex and how you can use it better, and also answer some of your questions that you may have. We do pre-select some of the questions to help tailor the content towards a specific topic, but at the end of the day, it's live. It's something that you can post a comment right away, and we'll see it. We'll have other people on here to see it as well, and get you your questions answered potentially. So, with that being said, let's get started and see what question we have out here first. One of the questions that was out here, I'm navigating through 3 or 4 different screens. So if you see me bouncing around, it's because I'm bouncing around on my computers. But the first question that we'll look at answering is from, I believe it's Karen Lilystone, and if I butcher your name, I apologize in advance. But she asked a question about post submission of a form, or how to control the post submission of the form. And with that, it's very simple. I'm not going to really display a lot. I'm actually going to see if I can share a screen and actually show you the question. Let's see where that is. Where did that? There we go. Let me share that so you all should be able to see that. But out here, you have a post submission of a form. It looks kind of funny on Google Hangout Live. Alrighty, it's doing like a half preview of the page. That's kind of cool. Not really sure why that does that. Let's see if that works. That does not work. Can I go further left? Ah, there we go.
Oh, you have to have it on that monitor.
There we go. Okay, that makes more sense. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so post submission of a form. There's a link underneath every question. We're putting the link to the thread as well, so you can see that. The post submission of a form. What she was asking here is, one, an ability. She submits a form and wanting to have the ability for that to route instead of going to a blank screen or going out to something else to actually route to. Um, there we go. I got it. She wants to route it to, uh, another page. Have something a little prettier, something that's more aesthetically pleasing, or something that just says successful submission. Right? I mean, that makes sense. So within that, one of the ways you can do that is to use JavaScript. That will be one of the methods of doing that to achieve that, and something that I would say, Pierre, if I said that wrong, I apologize. But it's not built into the normal form feature. That's not a Nintex issue. That's more SharePoint, how SharePoint handles the form controls within the web part pages. One of the things you can do, and something that's often recommended with forms, is instead of using the standard out of the box list form view, is actually creating a web part page and putting the form, embedding the form using the Nintex form web part, embed the form into the web page, and then you can control using source equals whatever after the form, as the button to actually get to the form. You can do that, and SharePoint will automatically reroute the page after the form has been submitted. That's something that happens natively, and something that is there. Mike M actually recommended that. So between Mike M and Pierre, one of them gets the correct answer. Not really sure, but Karen, if you out here and you see this, definitely try that out. Use the source. If you need some more help on that, there's a couple of things. Definitely in search, if you look for source equals within forms, I saw a couple of posts out there surrounding that are talking about that, and that's something that may be able to help you out in that case. So hopefully we can get that for you. Let's see. So
Just a heads up, you're going to want to move that window even further to the left on your next question so people can see.
gotcha. All right. Yep. We're getting this thing down as we can do it. Try to figure out how to make this thing work well for everybody. All right. So the next question comes from Ibrahim, I believe it is. He asked, is it possible to display the workflow diagram in a mobile app? And let's go ahead and see if we can browse to that question in the community really quick so everybody can see that. But is it possible to display the workflow diagram inside of a mobile app? And for most people that are aware of um, of mobile, so SharePoint doesn't have a good mobile app preview. They don't have a good preview. I mean, they're working on it. It's better on tablet, definitely not on the phone at all. But there are other companies that do have things that display SharePoint content via mobile. Um, However, with that, if you have ever seen SharePoint, you actually have never seen SharePoint designer workflows being displayed via mobile apps or via mobile period. That's an experience that is not there. As with such, the Nintex mobile app is for forms. And one of the reasons is there isn't a way to represent or to use the Visio diagrams that help build out the display to do that for a mobile. There isn't really a way to do that. I mean, you could do it graphically, but then you're looking at more of a static image and not something you can kind of expand and kind of drill through, etc. So at the moment, it is not something that is supported, and this will actually be marked as a answer that's answered after the community. I mean, after this live session, but that is not something that is currently supported via SharePoint nor the Nintex mobile app. It's not built for that purpose, and there's some things that we are looking at with regards to the tool and how people utilize it, but just not seeing a lot of people use mobile really in that aspect of trying to control and manage the workflow itself as far as the diagram or the design. But there are some other things that can be done to help alleviate that, such as having updates and things come from the workflow so that the user can view it in the mobile browser and actually see that it has completed certain processes. So hopefully, Ibrahim, that answered your question. If not, ping me, let us know, and we'll see if we can get an answer for you. But at the moment, the mobile app does not support that, and that's not something within the scope of how we've envisioned or we've seen users use the mobile app for that. Alrighty, so going to the next question. Let's see here. How can I create a new workflow with production license? I'm gonna skip. I'm skipping around a little bit. Sorry about that. But this is one from, I think it's Ganesh V in the community. And thanks so much for everybody for posting questions and having questions, whatever. For the community, we do appreciate that. This question was around, I can't create, or they were not having the ability or struggling to figure out a way to create after renewing the licenses, etc. They said they got two files, one for development server, another for production. And when they imported the production license file, they were unable to create new workflows on the production server. Wondering if that was a default behavior or if it was possible to create workflows using the development license. There was a couple other people, they said that they couldn't, there wasn't an option to manage workflows as well. Someone else came in and actually chimed in and stated the fact that, normally it depends on the farm license. So looking at the license and making sure that your license has the correct server names, and that is something that is true. When you do get new licenses, make sure that you submit them and you have them provisioned with the correct server names so that the license file does match up and the keys work appropriately. If you're still running into issues with that, another thing, and this one's another person commented on this one, stated that, make sure that obviously the license is correct, and then do you have support to reach out? But I would also say, if you can, just run the deployment of Nintex after the license is there to check and make sure that things are actually deployed correctly so you can create. If it's showing up and you're not able to create, there may be a conflict there where you might need to redeploy the software onto your farm for that. Usually that should be done, especially product licensing done probably during off hours, so you don't have any business interruption there, or if you have something like that, you can potentially roll back. But those are things to look for. If you run into that issue, make sure that the web apps provision and then central administrator ensure that you have the install done and that it is actually activated correctly on all the web front ends as necessary. So I hope that answered the question. Let us know if that does answer your question, and hopefully you got that resolved. So, alrighty, we're rolling right along here, I think. How am I doing
Yeah, you're doing fine.
so far?
I can see the graphics now.
Okay, good. Awesome, awesome. So one of the things before I jump into the other questions, one of the things I want to talk about the community. Actually, let's jump into the community really quick and let's just kind of look at some things from a navigation standpoint. Just to talk about the community and how the community is used. If I can find the right screen to show, let's present that to everybody. So out here we have the community, and some of the things you may notice about the community, if you get on the right page to show it, we have these little kind of sections, and the community is broken up into sections: getting started, installation, learn more, dev talk, support, and tech blog. And each one has content that is generally catered to that specific area. So if you're getting started, you're brand new to Nintex, obviously the getting started areas for you. If you're trying to install SharePoint, wow, install Nintex on SharePoint, then looking at installation, there's questions around that, and those are usually good areas for just getting up and running. Learn more, that's general content about a whole lot of things, whether you're doing forms, mobile, workflow, or Office 365. There's a lot of content in there for learn more. Dev Talk is another one that can help as well. Gotcha. Dev Talk is another one that can help with if you're doing some development work and things like that, or you want to learn about new product updates and things of that nature. Support obviously deals with if you have support issues. We have people here working with support that are on the community that are watching, monitoring, and they're trying to help resolve issues. However, one thing to do know, if you have software assurance, the community does not replace that. So if you have that, make sure you're using the proper channels for support in that case. And then a tech blog, we have a bunch of TEs, we have a good select few TEs who we blog and we put information about updates to Nintex, updates on how to do different things, whether it be using JavaScript or creating UDAs or doing something within mobile. There's a lot of good, rich content out there for how to use Nintex and how to do things well with SharePoint and Nintex together from all of our TEs here in Nintex. So definitely good sources of information out there. One thing that was mentioned earlier, and I'll mention again, is the search bar. That's something that is definitely helpful, something that is good to use, and it's something that gives you a lot of quick results. When using the search bar, a lot of people tend to, what I've seen over the year rather, is they'll type in form, for example, or let's just say flexi task, something a little more specific. They would type it in, and instead of hitting enter to see a full list of results, they'll go off of whatever is kind of presented quickly through the screen. We would recommend go ahead and hit enter. After that, it will load the actual search page, and it'll pull down not only just content that's relative to what you may see there, but it'll also pull down content as far as the information for, see if we can get this centered even more. I apologize if that was not showing up clearly, but it'll also show content as far as if you want to see blog posts, documents, discussions, and things of that nature. um, so that's something to be aware of, because so you can see things on messages if people are doing polls and things of that sort. So um, it's a better way to do it. You can search by author. There's a lot of people that consistently post things up. So just utilize that method to help do things as far as looking up content and things, and we're tweaking things over here to get this view just the way it needs to be. It's kind of weird how it's on my screen, but it's showing up correctly for those of you out there. So we should have this right at this point. But yeah, so search bar. Uh, some of the other things to note in the community news, you can go out there. Frank's doing a really good job picking up where Emily left off as far as updating news. How to use. I mean, one of the news things, the new look of the community site. Jive did an update over the weekend, and he went through great detail and research and trying to figure out, what changes were out there, how things look. Most of y'all may notice that the little icon notification thing at the top, that definitely changed. There's a lot of things out there that are changing, so use that when you can, the news section, to actually see what's out there and what's new. Forums that kind of hyperlinks you to some of those other areas as well. Obviously, the unanswered questions, that's there. But those are things that we're trying to put content relative to the right places in the community, so that it's easy for you to find, easy for you to use, and easy for you to update and actually ask your question and get answers. So with no further ado, let's jump back into questions really quick. So obviously that's the reason why most people are here. Let's see if we can get their questions answered. All righty. All right. So hope that helped. The next question that we have on here, we're going to go to Martin Bennett, I believe. Let's do Martin Bennett's question. How to append changes to an existing text. Let's actually go to that one really quick, and I have an example I'll show on that. Since we have a little bit of time, I have an example to show on that, on how to do that. So see if I can. Think this is how I want to do it. Let's see if that actually helps. Let's see, present to everyone and see if this works. I hope this works.
Looks right.
Alrighty, so I think I figured it out. If I didn't, I'm pretty sure that someone out there will let me know sooner or not. I'm actually looking for I had this thing available. I'm looking for, I actually worked on it.
Looks right.
Looks good. That looks good. Cool. Now, there we go. This little guy here, my demo environment. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So, um, within this, so let's look at the question really quick. Let's move this out the way. Look at the question. Hey, thanks, Frank. um, so appending changes. So the idea here was there's multiple lines of text. There's a column, called history, and then there probably is another column out there just called comments. And the idea is how to get the workflow to add the comment to the history, so that every time someone edits an item or something, I'm hoping that I'm saying explaining this correctly, but every time someone edits an item, that information from the comments field gets added to the history, so you have a rolling log essentially. Before I explain a solution that I created quickly for this, one of the benefits of SharePoint is version control. And version control, if you look at, you have to have versioning on the list item before you can actually do appended text. So with that being said, it's you kind of have to have versioning, and versioning is how the appended text works. So instead of kind of creating something that SharePoint does automatically, one of the things that I would suggest in this case is to have your history column, if that's possible, have it to where that's set to multi-line as it is, and then just do the appended text. And when they go in, it will actually, SharePoint does this automatically. It will clear out the current one, do a date timestamp, and with the person's name, and we'll show this in a second, and it'll actually append it automatically. So you don't have to do this unless you're trying to capture it from another reason. Not sure what that may be, but that, I mean, it's something that's there. It's out of the box. It's something that SharePoint handles, so there's something that's available. But let's go ahead and show. I'll actually show you a solution that can get this done as well, without necessarily having to use the out of the box feature per se, but it still gives you the same functionality as far as moving text from one area to another. So hopefully while this may be overkill for some people, it may help solve another issue that somebody may have, as far as trying to get this done. So give me 1 second. Let's get this wired up for you. So I have my SharePoint environment up and running, and I just create a live chat example really quick. The list has 3 columns in it: title, comments, and history. And the purpose of that is to, so when you go in, let's just create a new one really quick to show you. So title, this is, or I just call it live chat. Why not? Um, this is a live chat. The comments here, this is where you would have the person append their comments. So we are on at 9:50 a.m. or whatever time frame it is there. So it may be 11 or 12:50, depending on where you are in the world, or it could be later or earlier. But so you would have your comments here, and this is where, you know, you obviously have other fields, but this was just for that purpose, and you would save. I don't have the workflow running automatically, and I did that so that I can actually show this. But so you see the comments here, and it's in the comments section. I'm going to now run the workflow, and I'm going to show you the result, and then I'm going to show you how I built the workflow out, and that's kind of the thought process behind it. Because I'm doing this in Office 365, SharePoint does a throttling thing. This is not a Nintex issue. This is a SharePoint infrastructure thing where that they're doing in 365 to keep workflows from being kind of throttled or kind of bottlenecked. So they kind of have their own timing behind it. Not a bad thing. Most of these things usually kick off within 20 seconds or less. That one actually already ran, which is great. But if you do see something not necessarily going at a timely manner, um, check and make sure the workflow is started. And if it's started, then give it a couple of seconds. And SharePoint is doing what it's supposed to do, is make sure that everyone gets their workflow in and it runs accordingly. So one of the things we could do, we could actually look here. It says we're on a 950, so it actually automatically appended that. To make sure that I'm not just making this up, I'm going to actually edit the item again. Shows it down here, and I'm going to now add another comment. Say we are good for 9:52 a.m. Why not? And save. And this will actually show you that it's taking the information. You can actually see this is adding kind of blanks. I did that just as a test. It's adding those in there. I'm going to reload to see if this thing moved. So it's taking a while. You can see that, but not too long. SharePoint's pretty good about it. See, it actually says it's not running. Oh, it's actually not running because I didn't kick it off. So that was on me. I apologize for that. User error there, right? Blame it on SharePoint. Why not? No. Typical is what we tend to do, but now user error sometimes helps. So you can see this says not started. So actually SharePoint behind the scenes, Microsoft's actually throttling this and it's adding it to the queue. And there's a, I want to say the way it works on premise, there's timer jobs that are kicking off that are running probably every minute, every 2 minutes, depending on what the setting is there. But this one actually should be running. So that one showed complete. So let's go back to it really quick, and you can tell it's replacing it again, which is what I wanted to do. And view entries, you can now see that it's adding this. So it's appending it via workflow. Now let's look at the workflow really quick to see what we're doing. And I can actually show you what it would do without the workflow as well, but just for the sake of the answer to the question, if you're using a workflow for here, for this workflow, I'm doing of set variable. So I'm going here and I'm actually grabbing the variable, set workflow variable, just drag that over, set workflow variable. So that's the one I'm using. If I can actually delete that. So, all right, let's delete that. So set workflow variable, and I'm grabbing the history. So what I want to do first, before I do anything, I want to actually get whatever's in the history box. So I want to grab that first before I move it or change it. The next thing I'm doing is I'm grabbing a new comment. So I'm grabbing what's in the comments. So I've already grabbed the history, and now I'm grabbing the comments, and I'm saying, okay, I want to make sure I have both of those set. Appending new variable, what I'm using here, so the access I'm using here is build string. And the reason for that is I want to just capture that data, not do much to it, just want to capture, right? So I'm now adding the comments, so the new comments that are here to the history. So what this does is it says, okay, grab the first set of information out, and then grab the comments, the new set of information, and I'm going to basically just put the two together into one string, and I'm going to append that to the appended comments variable. So that variable now is what I'm going to use to update the list item after this workflow runs. So current item, I want to update the history. So that's the history column. I want to update to the appended comments, which is a combination of the history, old history, and the comments. And I want to append that. What you don't have to do, but what I like to do is actually go in there and clear it out. And so instead of clearing out, you can't just have a blank here. So what I did was I just put two quotation marks there. So that's one of the things that I did, and that's what you see when we come here and we look at and we see this here. It's because I told it to replace it so that I know visually that it moved my data out for me. Now, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, and this is actually a little more complex, but this kind of processes it through a little bit better. What I'm doing here is, first of all, let's look at the parallel block. You can do both of these simultaneously. You don't have to do them in sequential order. You can actually do them at the same time because they're not changing each other. Is I'm going to grab the history and the new comments at the same time. Then I'm going to append them together. So basically I'm grabbing two individual items and I'm going to append them. I'm doing the same thing. I didn't change anything here. I just moved how they got it ordered. So parallel and then merge them together. One of the cool things that I did here was the update list item. Instead of having the bracket or the two quotation marks in it, it wasn't really good. I went ahead, I'm still appending the information, and I added another variable, which was blank. And the purpose of doing that was I don't really want the quotation marks in there. I want it to be blank so that someone else goes in there. They don't have to have it seeing, they have to delete something, etc., and do that. So this is actually now going to update with a blank value. And if we look at the variables here, actually don't need this one because it's not being used. That's one thing to note really quick. Quick side note is you will actually be able to see variables that are not in use via the the Xbox. So that's actually something pretty cool that they engineered up for us to help us kind of know which ones are in use and not in use. But blank comments is here is just simply a text box and it doesn't have a value because I didn't set a value. So it's going to set, if we look at this again, it's going to set the comments field. Once it moves that data out, I'm setting it to blank. And then that works. So I hope that answered the question regarding, how do you append changes to an existing text? That's how you would do it. That's one of the ways to do it. The other way, obviously, let's go back here again and look at what's out of the box in SharePoint. Not saying that the Nintex workflow isn't needed, but you could simply just use the SharePoint feature for the list column that allows you to do versioning. So versioning is turned on. And then if we look at the history here, we could see that you can append changes to existing text and SharePoint will do it automatically for you. The same thing I showed you in the workflow, SharePoint will do that for you. So I hope that helped with that. Let's see here. All right, next question. Let's go. So that one's been answered. Next question really quick. How to establish, let's select this and let's go. How to establish a Nintex community within an organization. And this was a question that, let me get the rest of the details up here so that we answer all of them correctly. But they just bought Nintex Forms of workflow, and they want to put they want to have broader acceptance in for their admins. Is there any documentation, articles, best practices on how to build such a community, and what is important to consider, tips and tricks? Man, that's a loaded question. And that's something that we probably can't fully go into in this session, but you're at the right place. You're in the community. That's the best place to start, and ask questions as they come up. There have been a couple questions out here. If you were to browse for governance, there's a couple of posts that I myself, Mike M, Andrew Glacier, and a couple other people, Glacier, sorry about that, Andrew, butchered your name. But there's a couple other people in the community that have kind of chimed in on some things that are best practices or things to do. Also, there's another post out there in the community I can remember. I think Lisa may have worked on, or maybe one of the other community members chimed in about, who sets the policy around who can publish workflows or who can build workflows. It really depends on your organization. The best thing to do is to start with who you're working with. If it's admins, then look at the base premise of managing Nintex workflows. Whether you're going to do publishing rights, so not everybody can publish workflows, etc. Whether you're going to open it up to everyone. One of the key things is helping make sure people understand workflow limitations. So you don't want people just creating workflows doing whatever. You don't want to have infinite looping, so make sure safe looping is enabled. It is turned on by default in the product. You can disable it, but it is turned on by default. That's something to be aware of. But there's a host of things to consider when it comes to workflows and Nintex and forms. Don't make sure that you don't go into the central administrator and wipe out or put a form template out there. It will change everything for everybody. So there's a lot of things out there. But my best suggestion is to start. Use the community, get your other users in the community. It's free. They just have to have an email address and register. So get your other admins in the community and feel free to ask questions. It's something that we're out here. We want to answer for you. We want to help you out. So definitely connect with us, and we'll be glad to help you as much as we can. And if you have software assurance or premium support, use those as well. I know that doesn't answer your question about the community piece of it or helping to get documentation and things, but if you run into an issue with Nintex, use support. Put in a ticket, ask a question, and come out here and see if someone has asked a similar question as well. And I'm pretty sure that you'll find that the Nintex community is very strong, very loyal, and we love the product. So definitely see if we can help you out with that. But thanks for being on here. Thanks for getting Nintex, and let us know what you're doing with it as well. We'd love to know how people are using Nintex in their organization. So hope that helps. All righty, so we're wrapping up. Got four more left, really quick. Um, Joanne Morris, how to log into the mobile app. Let's tackle this one. How to log into the mobile app. Um, this is one that may be a little different, a little tricky for people that have not used a mobile app. I'm going to show this really quick so that everybody can see it. And I think I really just figured out how to do this whole screen share thing. So I apologize if the other screens earlier were not. If so, just ping me on the video afterwards or put a comment and say, hey, I wasn't able to see the screen. And I'll try to go back and either address it or show you a screenshot of what I was actually showing. But again, the links to the questions are in the video, so you should be able to find the links on the community to the same question. So we try to do that so that it was a one-stop shop as far as this video chat. All right, but she's saying unable to log into the mobile app. She's using it downloaded on an iPad and accessing it over a secure VPN and 4G using SharePoint 2010. That's a little different, and there may be some things there that might be blocking it. But let's keep going to see what all she's saying. So normally when she opens the app, enters the username, network path, and domain already entered. That's good. Currently when I open the app, it is blank per the screenshot below. Oh, that's not good. All right, so she enters the username, password, network path, and the domain, click sign in. The form flicks into the app to the task page and then immediately flicks out to the login page with the login details all entered gone. No information such as errors are provided. All right, so this is one of those and that might be a buggy thing with the app itself. I've actually experienced the same thing on one of my tablets that I use for support and troubleshooting. And it was weird because it was working on my iPhone, it was working on my Android phone, it was working on my iPad, but another Google tablet or Android tablet rather, um, Nexus was not. It just would not log in for some reason. What I had to do was actually clear the cache on the device, delete or uninstall the app, and reinstall it. It took me about 3 tries to do that before it worked. And I will say, not the best answer, but that's what I had to do. That's what I've seen. And it's something dealing with the credentials being passed from the app into through the device and then into SharePoint, and just a hiccup of something there. So that's what I would recommend. And let us know if it does work, if you're able to get it. But start by uninstalling the app, and reinstalling the app, there may be an update or something that could have flipped. There may be something within the iOS that could have been affecting it as well. But then also the fact that you're trying to go through a secure VPN, there may be some things there that might be affecting it. Not saying that those are all issues, but they could be contributing to the fact of why the app is now not staying logged in or flipping in and out. So hope that helps. While on this discussion, knowing how to log in or what to log into using a Microsoft account or 365 going through your corporate account, if you're on Office 365 and you're using Nintex Mobile, use the Office 365 account login. It's the red button on the right. Microsoft account, that's if you have a live account, Hotmail account, etc. Those are for the Microsoft accounts. And then corporate accounts if you're hitting a direct domain or you have a direct URL, and make sure that your URL of your SharePoint site is publicly accessible so that you can actually see it and hit it. So those hopefully will help. And if you have questions around it, obviously use the community to do that, and we will definitely see what we can do to help out with that. So Joanne, I hope I answered your question. If not, let me know. All right, we're down to three. We're getting through this. Uh, Carol mentioned how to display names and notification messages. This is a really interesting one. This is one I've seen on the community pop up every now and then. I'm actually going to screen share this one so we can see the question really quick. And then I might just jump over and show a quick, yeah, actually I will do that, how to fix that. So display name, so setting up a SharePoint list. Actually, Frederick did a really good job of answering this. I'm going to show you how to do that, and we'll get Frank to actually mark that one correct after this one, and we'll post a video as well so that people can see it. But within this, so the question is, using a people picker, and the purpose of the people picker is to obviously select from Active Directory or whatever. However, when you put it into a notification, usually what I've seen happen is that you get the actual domain name or the name as it's displayed, and you don't actually get the name of the person or email or whatever that you want to reference. You get some long characters, and it's kind of not cool. It doesn't help with the users, like, who is this? I didn't know that was my name in the first place, etc. So one of the things that you can do, let's actually bounce over to the workflow, and I'm going to see if I can do this really quick. um, Actually, let me add a column here. I'm doing this on the fly, so if this is not the most perfect way to do that, I apologize, but this is how I know to do it. Um, I'm going to call this, I can't call it person, I need to call it name field. How about that? Name field, and we want to select people only for this case, etc. So I add a name field to it, and as you can see, I'm going to create a new item. Name field is there. I'm going to try to find myself. So it shows up as me, and I'm going to do a title of sample, right? Sample. All right, we'll see if this works. There. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to come back to my workflow, and I'm going to use the update list item. That's good because I wanted to update. That actually may not work, but we're going to try this thing out to see. Actually, I need to close this out because it's cached, and I need to get it to actually pull the new field in. Not to be confused with Frank Field, the new field. Okay, that was a bad joke. Sorry. All right, so I'm actually refreshing the workflow. I wanted to pull the new fields in. I probably could have done something else to do that, but this is the way I chose to do it. Just go out and come back into it. Update list item. I want it to now. So I'm grabbing the name field there, and I see it. I actually want to move. I want to grab a variable. I want to create a variable. I think this is what was actually shown. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to set this variable to create a new variable, and I'm going to call this person's name, and I want to set it to the people field. People in person group. Create it, and I'm going to equal to the value. Let's look up current item. I want it's equal to the name field. If I can find that. Name field. So what I'm doing is I created a variable that I'm setting to the name that's in the list. I didn't have to do that, but I'm doing that, and I'm going to do this so that I know which one I'm working with. Set person name here. Doing that. So I'm doing that, and actually, the easier thing to do is send email, which is what people usually tend to have issues with. And I want it to show up, so I'm going to send it to the person who initiated the workflow. So I'm going to go workflow content, and this is all in 365, mind you, but it's not too much different from how you do it on-prem either. So I'm going to send it to the initiator, and I'm going to say that the uh, let's call title. I'm going to do this the way I would normally do it. Title is ready, something like that. But here's where the issue comes into play. You want to actually embed the name of the person. So the name field here, if you see that, that comes over. That's not necessarily going to come over. That's going to come over as a really encrypted name. It's not really the way you want it, right? So one of the things we can do is, let's see if I can do this. Can I do that? I think I can. Here we go. Here, login name, display name, email address, etc. I could have done this on the actual variable, and I'm going to go back and do that. But display name is what was recommended here. He was actually doing the same thing. Select return type, display name, and this is actually on-prem. I could tell by the way it's actually written. But the same thing works here. Use display name, click OK, and you can insert that. So now what I'm doing is actually let's do that the right way the first time. We're going to grab the person's name, workflow variable, because it is a workflow variable that I created. And I wanted to display not the login name, which would be, domain name, whack, whatever. I wanted to just show the name, or it could be the email address. But in this case, I'm going to do display name. I'm going to insert that, and I'm going to say has submitted comments. Whoops, spell comments. So, and then I can save that. So when this email gets sent out, it will actually email and it will transpose the name and show the display name, not the login name. Another way you can do that is here. Well, actually clicked on the wrong one. Sorry. Here, I could have done that here where I actually said choose what I wanted to display, and it would have saved it in the variable so that I wouldn't have had to do it at the actual email place. So one of the two areas is where you could do it. But when you're doing this, when you're looking at how do you transpose a variable or content or a people group, be sure to look at the function on 365. On-prem, I believe it's still the ellipsis, so it's the three ellipses. One of the two is right, it should be right beside the field. It should open up a new display type and actually give you the ability to change how it's rendering that data. So that's how you would do it. This is 365, and on-prem is very similar. So Carol, I hope I answered your question. And it's interesting, I did not mark that I was answering that question. So Carol, I apologize, but it is if you look at the video, if anyone's looking for this, look at the video right before this or the time frame right before this, talking about answering the questions. But the way to do that really quickly, since it wasn't tagged on the video, is when you're editing the variable, click here for display name, and that is how you would do that. Or if you're actually in the email, one of the things you can do is when you're adding something, find the variable, or you can actually find the actual item, the list field, and that would be, I believe that was called name field, and you can transpose it here. So you don't even have to use a variable at all. You could just use it by itself, and you want it to display a different type. So you want to select the return type, and then you would insert that in, or you would have it there, and it would actually transpose it when it actually gets rendered as a part of the action. So hope that works. If not, let us know. Should be good. And thanks so much, Frank, for helping out in the community and getting these things updated. Um, Two more questions really quick. Unwanted looping between two workflow lists. Actually, mark that one this time. We'll that. The last two questions. One is unwanted looping between two workflow lists. This is one that I can't really show you as much as I can tell you. Um, it's very simple. Donatus, I believe that's, hopefully I said that correctly. He was very much on point. Good job. For the answer. He's right on track with what the recommendations were. One, the logic. More than likely, your logic's conflicting. And there's something I want to show on here. If you look up, it's called Ducerim. I created this process a while ago, and it's something that I think is beneficial. I'm going to actually show this really quick. Screen share, the do swarm process. Um, it's people might laugh at it and be like, "Well, what is this? And why is it out here?" All right, let's make sure I present that to everybody. This is important just for this reason, and it's not for me to get any clout or anything. It's actually there because it's valuable. Um, it's if you think about logic, a lot of times people jump into the workflow, they are running the workflow and they're not 100% thinking through the logic. So they're seeing, they have a conflict where one workflow updates and then it updates another. It updates the same item and then another workflow runs on it and it updates. And then you have one workflow basically kicking off another workflow and they're updating each other and there's a conflict. Well, writing it out on paper tends to help eliminate that conflict because you at least see if I'm starting this, if this workflow is starting based on an item being created, and then I have another workflow starting when an item is being modified, I need to make sure that the modified doesn't get kicked off until the right time or until the right criteria for that workflow is ready. And so that's something to look at. And the do swarm process, I created it because I was working with a lot of users in a large environment, 115 plus thousand users, 115,000 users. And there was a lot of people not understanding this. So you can imagine the number of headaches that we were seeing. But develop your workflow in a non-production place. Don't do it where your data is. Create another list, another site, something. User testing to ensure it runs as intended. This is probably where you ran into the issue and realized that it was not operating, it was doing something differently. Clean up non-production actions and settings. Basically go in and clean things up if you need to. Export the workflow and store it in a secure location. Once you get it working, then move it, export it. That's one of the benefits of Nintex. You can't do it with Visio and you can't do it with SharePoint Designer. Export your workflow and save it somewhere else and you can do importing. You can kind of do that with Visual Studio workflows, but it's not the same and it's definitely not as easy. But remove and purge any old items from development. That's something that if you're a site collection administrator, that's something you can do. If you have questions about that, definitely ping us and let us know. But that's something purging. If you're doing a lot of tests, use the Nintex workflow gallery to go in and purge those items out so they're not just sitting out there adding to the clutter inside your Nintex database. Import the save workflow where you need it at the correct place. So whether it's a list, site collection, or a library, put it in the right place, and then maintain your workflow efficiently. So I wanted to go through that really quick to show you. That's something that's out there. It's called Ducerim, Ducerim, the Ducerim process. That's probably a better name for it, but that's what's out there, so it's there. But with in regards to this, um, your logic more than likely is conflicting, and that's what's kicking off. So one kicks off the other one. Another thing you can do, I wouldn't hugely recommend it because of how it's kind of flaky within SharePoint. And it's not an Nintex issue, it's just how the logic works. Conditional starting. You can set a workflow to start conditionally. However, that's still not necessarily the fix. If your logic is broken, your logic's broken. Having it conditionally start afterwards just says, I'm going to bypass fixing my logic and I'm just going to tell it to start at a certain time or tell it to start, etc. You don't necessarily fix the real issue. But that is an option. I've seen people do that because that's what they understood. And then the next one would be splitting the workflow into two workflows. I think there's already two workflows there, so not sure exactly when that happens. But the other piece of what he was recommending was have one start automatically, so start when the item starts, and have another one start manually, and therefore you can ensure that one doesn't kick the other one off. But within this, usually if you have one starting or two starting automatically when items created, you're going to have conflicts there. So there's things that just look at your logic and walk through the do swarm process. And if you can't fix it, then let me know and I'll help you out. But seriously, the do swarm process and writing it out should help you out with that. So I hope that does answer your question. And on to the last one. We are at the last question, and I do appreciate you all for staying with us on this, for watching it. Remember in the video, something to note really quick, you can jump between the questions and answers, so that's something to note. And all of these will be uploaded and linked inside the community. And the last question is, how do I get rid of white space created due to hidden panels on the start form? Let's show that really quick. The best way to do that, really is to watch your spacing. And there were some people that actually commented on that. Let's find out who. I remember seeing some people actually commented on that. And I chose this one because it was one that I've seen people struggling with before. And it's just not quite getting it right. And there might not be a complete fix. Sometimes don't use CSS. Sometimes it's really just your form. Um, CSS is great, but it may not fix the example. It may not fix what you need. So I'm just going to open up a new form. I haven't done this in this one. This is brand new, so you'll be able to see it. But um, make sure you understand the boundaries. So here, there may be some white space or something when you go to actually preview it. Not 100% sure. Let me actually try. Um, and I didn't export the other example that was out there on the community, but there may be some extra space there if you say I want to get rid of that. So knowing how to do that within the actual product is helpful. And I'm going to look at formatting. All right, in appearance. So here, border width, you can see that says 2. You can move that to 0. That doesn't really do a whole lot. The CSS class is something that's important, and I'm actually working with a couple of people to figure out how to publish out what these are. There are some people that have published out working with CSS and Nintex forms, but the CSS class is one of those things that can help. I'm going to save that, and if you notice, it actually moved the border. So if I were to preview that, it should actually move it around just a tad bit. So you can tell it actually moved it up. So let's actually keep editing this a little bit more and see what we can come up with really quick. And some people may have never done it before. The first thing I did was I took away the input form class. So that's something that was inherited, took that away. And then the next thing I did is I removed the border width in pixels from 2 to 0. I'm gonna save that down, and you can actually tell that it's actually starting to compress the two field columns together, which is something that somebody may want. And then when you come here and you generate the preview again, you can actually tell they're bumping up against each other. So that might be one solution for you. There's a couple other things you can do depending on what you're doing. If you're working inside of a panel or you're working inside of a repeating section, it alters what you may have to do. But that's where I would start looking is the formatting of the field. You can actually do that from here as well. The formatting of the field, you can increase it. Oops, I hit more settings. I didn't mean to do that. That actually should auto push. So it did. If you do it here, it auto pushes, and this is on the right side. It auto pushes it and updates. One of the other things that I will mention is controlling the layout settings. A lot of people may not know this, but the grid cells kind of affect how things are published or viewed inside of the designer. And it also helps with alignment. So I'm going to go ahead and hit snap to grid is there. I want snap to grid on, but by changing my grid size, I also affect alignment. That looks really horrible, right? But it affects alignment of the spacing. I'm not sure you can see that. So that is another thing as well. Making sure that things are kind of working from that perspective can help ensure that you're um, getting your formatting the way you want it. I'm going to undo a lot of what I just did because that was kind of hideous. But that's there. Again, just remember when you're looking at the white space for columns or cells inside of the form, go to formatting inside of each control, and you can modify the border width pixels. You can also do the padding width as well. But the border width pixels, and make sure you have the right CSS class if you're using CSS for those items. The other thing to mention is the actual pixel width for your form design or your layout settings rather. So I hope that helps. And then obviously just be sure to preview, make sure it looks the way you want. Printing of forms is a little different. That's something that is coming in the future. Not giving you a date, but I'll tell you that printing is coming for forms. I believe it's coming. I've seen it somewhere around here, but you didn't hear that from me. No, just kidding. That is something that is out there. But as far as just printing in general, SharePoint doesn't handle printing well at all. But that is something you can do, screen captures and things like that. So with that being said, we're done on that, and I do appreciate everyone for just staying with us for this almost this hour. Um, like we said, the I believe the way it works, under the bottom of this video on YouTube, you'll be able to jump through and see. You should see the marks where the questions are asked and answered. So you should be able to jump through for that. Also, we're going to post a link to the video for each question that was answered on the video. We're going to post that there as well. So it's going to be kind of like an archive, something brand new. So if you see this and you're like, wow, I want to see if somebody can answer my question or whatever, stay tuned. Let us know that you like it. If this helps, if it doesn't help, let us know that as well. We're trying to really engage with you. We're trying to help you do your job better and be more efficient, and then also make, add more value to the community as well. And so this is one of the formats that we're looking at doing. If you have a suggestion for something you would like us to discuss during this live chat session, where maybe it's not just talking about, questions and answers, but it may be something specific that you're looking for, write a comment, send us a message in the community, let us know. We're open, we're here, we're on all hours of the day and night. We have people, East Coast, West Coast. We have people in Europe, in Asia, Africa, and Japan. We have people all over. We have TEs and VTEs as well that are experts in Nintex that want to help out, and they're waiting for your questions. So we're glad that you're in the community. We're glad you're involved, and we want to support you in getting your business processes done better and doing more workflow. And definitely working inspired. That's one of the new slogans, and it's something that is true. Work inspired. A lot of people are trying to do a lot of things, so that's something that's there. Frank actually mentioned something as well within it. I'll see what he said here. uh, hey everyone, we're trying to hang out. We'll try to have a hangout. Yes, in the future. Yes, that is true. We will. So, thanks a lot. Frank's behind the scenes, but he's hugely involved. There he is. He's hugely involved in what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and I mean, he's working hard to make sure the platform is doing what we needed to do from that standpoint. So definitely give much kudos to him for stepping in, big shoes to fill with Emily, who many of you all interacted with. But I mean, definitely right on board, and we do appreciate you all for bringing him in, showing him the love, and actually getting him up to speed as well in the community. So we do appreciate that. But again, my name's Eric Harris, tech partner evangelist here at Nintex. Glad to be a part of the community again, and definitely look forward to seeing you all later. Thanks again for watching this, and if you have any questions, you can email us, you can post, and you can also comment on the community. Thanks again, and we hope to see you soon.